This episode is brought to you by freedadcourse.com. You are always one conversation away from changing your life, and the power of hello is something that I subscribe to every single day, and I'm always saying hello to new people everywhere I go. Increasing your opportunity, increasing your connection, and getting access to the solutions to the problems that you are facing, whether you're on active duty or just beginning your veteran transition or even transitioning out for 20 years. On the other side of hello are the solutions that you're looking for. Again, head on over to freedadcourse.com. Get your 5-episode audio course to create more connection, create more friendships, and get back to living the life that you're trying to design.
Dory 1, this is Fireteam Delta. Dad's coming home.
Welcome to the Military Veteran Dad Podcast, where it is our mission to bring every dad home. I am your host, Ben Killoy. I'm a United States Marine veteran, husband, and a father. We will bring authentic conversations to inspire action in your life so we can close the gap between the dad you are today and the dad you want to be tomorrow. This is the Military Veteran Dad Podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Fatherhood Fridays. I am your host, Ben Killoy. And just a reminder, we are pausing the interview shows on Monday. You'll just be getting me on the microphone on Fridays for Fatherhood Friday up until September, and we'll be back on the microphone for regular interview shows. Today, I want to dive into an all-important topic of the present. Now, that might be kind of an interesting thing to talk about. We haven't really talked about it a lot. What do we mean by that? What do I mean by let's talk about the present? I recently went kayaking with a close friend, and as we were talking about life, he's a veteran, and within his life, he was talking about how he just feels so compressed to only worry about the present. Like talking about the future, he can kind of feel the anxiety of what could come if he moved into the future, and he's kind of the opposite. I feel like a lot of people get stuck in reliving the past, living in the future, and we forget the present. But he's focused on the present to the point where he ignores the potential that could happen in the future and even trying to understand what happened in the past. Now, he's a great guy. We had an amazing conversation, but this was something that was really on his heart. And I wanted to create this episode to really dive in, expand this thought, and expand it in a way because maybe he's not just the only veteran out there having that same thought. So this idea of being stuck in the present, I think what it's rooted in is we also have to illuminate that there is a fear, a wall of fear surrounding the present. That within a 360-degree radius, if you think of a circle around the present, it's a wall of fear that kind of prevents you from seeing what you're missing out on. Now, sometimes you can get vision, you can get glimpses, you can even get excited about something that you potentially could make. But you can still live in the present and still have that fear. Because sometimes maybe that fear, the denseness of the fog of wall of fear kind of lowers and you can get visibility of really where you could go and who you could become if you would directly pick a direction and head towards it. Because the problem with living in the present without really having a clear future is it's almost like a dinghy in the middle of the ocean that's just surrounded by fear. You don't know if you're heading south, north, west, east, and you're just stuck to the current, essentially. The current takes you where it's supposed to go. And you don't have any direction. You're a rudderless dinghy in the middle of an ocean. But what do you do? How do you fix that? Because it's not an easy question. We spent a long time on the lake talking about life and just everything. And this was kind of a core question that he was stuck on. And for me, I don't think there is a perfect answer. I've been thinking about it since going kayaking with him, and there's not a perfect answer for this. Because what ultimately needs to come through this is a compelling enough reason to take the oar out of the dinghy and put it in the water and get some direction where the current is taking you, to apply some motion to life. Now, within that, it's still not very easy because you still don't necessarily always know where you're going, and you're going to start facing whatever is behind that wall of fear. Now, there's a couple things that I've learned about fear and this wall of fear that shows up in our life, and that wall of fear is really just something that our caveman brain applies to danger. And it's not something that's going to be a lion, tiger, or a bear, but it's going to be something that it relates to it in a very same way. Public speaking is a great example of that. Many people have a fear of public speaking. Well, our brain reacts the same way as professional speaking as it would to a threat in the wild. It's the same kind of mechanism. And depending on what's happened, how our story has unfolded, what kind of moral code has been corrupted of how we see right and wrong, it can create this bankrupt kind of area where you don't really know where to go from. But again, we're back to, what do you do? I think the advice that I gave him, and the advice that I think every veteran kind of needs to hear within this, is some of the same advice that we speak to a lot of different areas. One, you're not alone. This feeling is something that other people go through. Other people have been exactly where you are, and they've gotten through where they needed to go. Know that there's someone just starting what you started and just finished what you're still going through. And understanding that within this, knowing that you're not alone, figuring out where do you need to go, there is still this idea that you need to do it with someone. Now, maybe that can be hard. Maybe that's not always the easiest road to take. But maybe it's the one that you need to take. Because when we have this thought, an idea, that we need to do it alone, that we are the only ones, the world just seems very small. And it seems like it doesn't even notice us. But this is why we need people that think like us, and they can help pull us into a different direction. It's almost like someone coming by the dinghy and saying, hey, how's it going? Dropping a rope, and whether you pick it up or not, they could pull you to some destination that hopefully is the one that you want to go to. But just knowing that there are people out there that can help take you to places that you don't maybe have the courage to go on your own, and I think that's okay. But maybe you're also at the point where you're listening to this episode and you haven't really illuminated that you were stuck in the present. Maybe this is the first chance. I think knowing what's going on is also really important. So if this is that first step, I think it's okay. And there was some other advice that I want to season this with from my good friend Annie Storch. And that sometimes we just have to accept that this is the way it is right now. It's not forever. It's not permanent. It's just the way it is. I'm meant to grow through this. I'm meant to learn something. And life will continue to change. Life will continue to evolve if you let yourself live life and experience life versus hiding from it. But sometimes just having the gratitude for what we have, gratitude for where we are, and knowing that this is just what the season of life looks like. There is no permanence to it except what our mind really applies to it. But again, we still have to have the courage to be able to go through what we need to go through, to trust ourselves, to get ourselves where we need to go. Trust is such an important component of being able to walk through or be able to put that rudder in the ocean and start taking hold of the current and being able to chart your own stars. And it kind of reminds me of when Moana learns to put her hand up and chart her course against the stars. It's kind of that same way. When you learn that the world around you is something that you can chart through, but you have to have the trust and the courage, like Moana, to be able to believe that you can do that. And that you can be more than what you think you are. And you can be more of what you were. And you can become more in the future if you let yourself move out of the present and really start letting the current take you to some place where you can reach a higher potential. All of these things are important. All of these things are hard. But as I was reminded with Dr. Pamela Hall, admitting you need help for PTSD is hard, but living with PTSD is harder. So pick your hard. Put your name in the ground. Pick what you're going to go through. What storm are you going to almost create like a Lieutenant Dan type moment from Forrest Gump? And he realizes and steps in his own potential. He rises above the stories that he was telling himself, is able to reframe the story, and becomes the story of Lieutenant Dan within that movie. all of those things are kind of what we have the capacity to do within this journey. I hope this helps. I appreciate my friend who invited me to go kayaking with him. It was a great conversation. I love connecting with other guys and sharing stories and hearing another man open up his heart and maybe illuminating something that he couldn't see. And I hope that sharing this story and sharing this wisdom and this insight helped you if this was maybe the first time that you've also been through it. I will be back again with you guys next Friday. Have a good weekend. Have fun. Have some adventure. We'll talk soon.